Is it? My name is Elvebo, here with my colleague Nicole Huber from University of Bremen, and I also work with Galen University, translating the Little Prince into Mopan Maya. Challenges, opportunities, and lessons learned. Contents: 1. Mopan Maya in Belize, language endangerment and language promotion. The Little Prince and Nene Yum. So we have challenges, opportunities, and lessons learned. And lastly, outlook.
Okay, so we're going to start to talk a little bit about Mopan Maya in Belize. Mopan Maya is one of the three Mayan languages spoken in Belize, and today it's roughly some 8,000 speakers still speak it, who mostly reside in Toledo and Stand Creek district. Now, these are, of course, not large numbers, and in fact, we see across the globe that there is endangerment of languages and culture around the world, with speaker numbers declining. And there are various reasons for that, such as globalization, migration, acculturation, imperialism, and neocolonialism. In fact, out of the world's 7,000 languages, nearly half will become extinct, according to recent estimates, and today about 43% of languages are endangered. This is why it's important to promote languages, and therefore UNESCO has advocated for or launched the Indigenous Languages Decade and point to the need to revive, revitalize, reverse, or promote Indigenous languages. And of course, there are several ways of doing so. For instance, developing written resources or using technology as a tool for promotion. And with our project here on the Little Prince, we target the development of written resources. So let's talk very briefly about what The Little Prince is. Some people might be familiar with this short novella written by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry in 1943. The novella deals with the story of a young prince who travels to different planets, such as Earth, and it deals with topics such as love, loss, friendship, and loneliness. And there is also a strong topic that targets the human connection to nature. So the translation of The Little Prince into Mopan with the title Nene Yum is a side project of a larger project that we're conducting here dedicated to documenting and describing contemporary Belizean Mopan Maya in order to further promote its usage. Nene Yum is translated from one of the translations in English, and so we're translating from that. Specifically, then Miss Elvia Bo is translating, Nicole Huber is doing the editing, and Mr. Richard Peck was kindly involved in proofreading the drafts. And we additionally also use a dictionary as a guidance for spelling and finding words and expressions. When this project was conducted and continued, then there were several challenges that we met along the way. One of the challenges is, of course, how to spell things in a language that's usually not much spelled. We decided to follow the recommendations by the Academia de las Lenguas Mayas de Guatemala, and so most of the spelling choices for certain sounds, such as the glottal stop, as in lick versus lick, or the representation of the sh sound with an X for shak, as in basket, or ship in English, where it would be spelled with an SH sound, and other such choices were based on these recommendations. However, a slight adjustment was made to reflect the linguistic ecology of Belize, namely that English has a strong influence here rather than Spanish, whereby then H was chosen to be used for Hanal instead of Hanal with a J. A second challenge was where there are no words for something in Mopan, either because they're not known or just because new concepts come along and there were no words in that language before. Here's an excerpt from The Little Prince illustrating that. So I had to choose a different career and learned how to fly airplanes, but my picture wasn't of a hat. It showed a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. Both airplane and elephant do not have Mopan terms, and there are different possible solutions to dealing with these kinds of words. For instance, use a Spanish loanword and put it into italics in the text, so something like elefante or avión, avión. We could also use an English word, loanword in those cases, and put it into italics, like elephant then, or plane or jet. Or we could come up with a feasible, possible Mopan word for a concept, so something like huge grey animal or description of whatever that thing is. In the case for the airplane and the elephant, we opted to use avion for airplanes, because this is something that speakers use very frequently here. And for the second one, we went with elephant. And for each of these cases, there have to be decisions. And of course, people will disagree or argue that another decision would have been more feasible, but in order to move on with the project, then such decisions need to be taken. So if there is a not a known word for something Mopan Maya, the decisions include either using a Spanish loan, an English loan, or a Mopan new creative word. So Spanish loan we decided to use mainly if the concept did not exist prior to colonialization, but the word is established in the speech community today. An English loan word is again something that did not exist prior to colonization, but is more recently borrowed through technology, migration, etc. And a Mopan word or a creatively new Mopan word was used if the word could potentially exist, but something is just not known anymore or not known by everyone. And now we come to the third challenge, which is probably the most difficult one and the most challenging one, staying true to the text, but also staying true to Mopan Maya.
So Nene Yum challenges, which it is very true to staying true, like knowing your history. Who are we? Who am I? Where do we come from? Where are we going? These unanswered questions are blocks that keeps us from exploring our language and creating love in what we do. These unanswered questions are blocks that keeps us from exploring our language. At this point of day and life, available materials, examples, books written by people from a different perspective and history not connected to the Maya way of life. When translating the Little Prince, there are many living and non-living objects, subjects, and things not found in the territory of the Maya people. Translation ends up defining, describing, imagery, places that do not compare to a Maya kingdom. And then the opportunities, meaning we have many opportunities, which is one of them will be language creativity, documenting dynamic and changing language, critically discussing language ideology, finding a balance between preservation, documentation, and reflection, uncover regional and individual variation, further working towards establishing reading and writing. And then a lesson learned. So there are many things that we have learned through this translating, which is we had the challenges and also we had lessons learned. So one of them would be choices and to be consistent to the document or to the supporting document we are using. The vision of labor. Sometimes less thinking, more doing, getting it done. This is one version of possible translations.
And with that, we come to the end of our short presentation. Given the limited amount of time, we could just briefly go through the different aspects of the project. So we hope that this will be available soon. We're still working on the finishing touches, and we're happy if anybody would like to reach out and hear more about the project in the future. Thank you for listening.
But they